So in our first Enigma video, we left you on a bit of a cliffhanger. I was just about to show you the flaw in the Enigma machine. Now that video was only meant to be a short follow-up video. But when we saw the reaction to our first Enigma video, we decided to come in and film again to show you how that flaw worked and how they broke the Enigma code. Now, if you want to see the original Enigma video, it shows you how the Enigma machine worked. Go check that out. We'll put the links in the description. But now let's have a look at that flaw. So here's the Enigma machine again. Now, if I press the letter K, there we go, the letter Q lights up this time. Now, if I keep pressing the letter K, a different letter lights up each time. So a double letter would not be a double letter in the code. So it's a very good code indeed. But it is never K itself. So this was the flaw. A letter never becomes itself. So A is not A, B is not B, and so on. Z is not Z. This is a clue. So the way you break the Enigma code is if you imagine you have an Enigma message, you try and guess a word or a phrase that might appear in that message. Now, every morning, 6 o'clock in the morning, the Germans would send a weather report. Now, that was a standard form. That was always the same every day, apart from the actual weather. It was always a standard format. So we can pick a word that's going to be in that weather report. We might pick the word or phrase weather report or Wetterbericht in German. And I apologize now if I've translated that badly. Mein Deutsch ist sehr schlecht. Entschuldigung. Now, I'm going to write Wetterbericht on a piece of paper.
That's weather report.
That's weather report there in German. Here, I've got an Enigma code. And I'm going to slide my guess underneath the code. And I'm going to try and find where this phrase fits in the message. Now, I know a letter can't become itself. So it can't fit here because I have a T becoming T. So that's not where it fits. Let's try this. Can it fit here? No, I've got this T matching with T again. Let's try here. Now, I've got no matching, no matching. From what I can see, no matching letters there, so it might fit there. If I try that, see, look, those R's match up, so it can't fit there. So maybe it's here. Maybe this is the phrase weather report. Now, from this point, we can start breaking the Enigma code. So you could use different phrases. Try and imagine what a German officer would send in World War II. So, for example, messages would end with Heil Hitler. So is it Heil Hitler at the end of the message? Now, if it is, we shouldn't have any letters matching with Heil Hitler. H's, E's, I's, L's. What the British codebreaker Alan Turing had to do was find a way to use this flaw to break Enigma messages. So he built a huge machine called the Bombe machine. It was designed by Alan Turing and another code breaker called Gordon Welchman. It was a big machine, noisy thing. It would rattle around, and this could help you break the code in under 20 minutes. So you would have to break the code every morning. So every morning, the settings for the Enigma machine would change. So all the Enigma machines would change stroke of midnight. So that's why a machine that could break the code that quickly was so important. So the Bombe machine tried to work out the plug board at the front of the Enigma machine. If we go back, at the front of the Enigma machine, we have this thing called the plug board that connects letters into pairs. You actually make 10 pairs of letters. When I press a letter, the signal first goes through the plug board. It then goes through the first rotor, through the second rotor, through the third rotor. It then loops back. Then it goes through the machine again in reverse order. So then it goes through the third rotor, the second rotor, the first rotor, and finally it goes through the plug board one more time and it lights up one of these bulbs. Now I'm going to try and draw that for you, but I'm going to make it as simple as I can. Let's try and do that. So first of all, it goes through the plug board, then it goes through all the rotors, and I'm going to call that just one big magic box called R for rotors. And the last thing it does is it goes through the plug board. If we look at our weather report here, let's look in the second place. T becomes E. Let me do that. If I press T, it goes through the plug board, through all the rotors, through the plug board again, and out comes E. Now we're going to use this to work out the plug board. I'm going to make one guess. I'm going to guess T is connected to A on the plug board. That's a guess, but I'm going to use it. So let's say That means that T goes through the plugboard and out comes A. Now A goes through the rotors. Now we know how the rotors are wired up. So we know that, we pick a position and find out what happens to A. That's not hard to do. And I don't know, let's make something up. Let's say it comes out as P. But if I do that, I can deduce that P goes through the plugboard and becomes E, which means I can deduce that P is connected to E on the plugboard. Now that's pretty cool. So you've worked out one of the plugboard settings. If that diagram works, P must be connected to E. So I've done this a few more times doing the same method using my weather report crib, and I've discovered a few more plugboard settings. So the first one we discovered was PE. Now I've discovered K and Q are connected on the plugboard. I've discovered X and B are connected on the plugboard, and I've discovered T and G are connected on the plugboard. But this last one is a problem. I've discovered that T and G are connected on the plugboard, but I guessed that T and A were connected on the plugboard, and it can't be both. This is called a contradiction. It can't be both TA and TG at the same time. This means my guess, the TA, was wrong. Throw it away, I got it wrong. Now I'm going to check the next one. What, TB? I might check TC, TD. I have to do all 26 options. TA, TB, TZ, TZ. If all the 26 options are wrong, that means your rotor position is wrong. And what you do is you go click, you check the next rotor position, and you go through all that again. Now that would take a very long time. So Alan Turing came up with 2 ways to make this a bit quicker. The first one, a really clever idea. He noticed that once you found one mistake, like TA and TG, this means that all these other deductions are also wrong, and they don't need to be checked. So they're all fruit of a poison tree. They can all be rejected at the same time, and you don't need to check them again. So that really speeds it up. The other way to speed it up is you can do this instantaneously with electrical circuits. So that's what the Bombe machine did. It had applied electrical current to my assumption, TA. The electrical current flows through the machine. It flows through TG, which means wrong. But it will also flow through all these other deductions, which means I can find all my deductions, which are all wrong, and I can do it instantaneously with electrical circuits. And then it will go click and check the next. And it could go through all the rotor positions in about 20 minutes. So the main thing to remember is the Bombe machine is built a little bit backwards. It's a process of elimination. And so what you're left with is what wasn't wrong. And you would actually check that by hand and see if it works. The Bombe machine was named in honor of a Polish code-breaking machine called Bombe. Bombe was a completely different machine, worked on a completely different principle. It wasn't a huge machine. You could sit it on your desk if you wanted to. And it exploited a flaw in the German procedures. Now, they could use Bombe, the Polish could use Bombe to break Army and Air Force Enigma codes, but they couldn't break naval Enigma codes. So what Alan Turing had to do was find a way to break Army, Air Force, and Navy Enigma codes. And it had to be a bit more robust so that if the Germans choose to change their procedures, that this method would still work. What the Navy was doing differently is the rotor starting positions were actually sent at the beginning of each message, but they were sent in another code entirely. So it was a completely different code just to send the rotor starting positions. So you needed to work out how that worked as well before you could even start breaking the naval code.
Is there anything that the makers of the Enigma machine could have done to have avoided this problem? Was there some simple thing that the Enigma makers could have put into that device there and it would have not have been broken like this?
Well, hindsight is a fabulous thing. You wanted to make it so that a letter could become itself. That was the flaw. And so the British saw Enigma. They said, that's a good idea. We'll have that. They nicked the idea. We saw Enigma and we decided to make one of our own. We called it the Type X machine, except we took out the flaw. So a letter could sometimes become itself. This made it a more secure machine. Now, from what I've heard, the Germans tried to break our code, but they concluded that it was better than the Enigma machine, so they gave up trying. At least that's what I've heard. It's very difficult to know for sure. It was all very secret.
So if you've watched our original video about how the code machine works, and this one, and you still want more, I've got a third video with all the extra material and offcuts, which isn't listed, but you can find the links here on the screen and in the video description below. The bits of brown paper used in these videos can also be found on our eBay site for people who like to get their hands on them. And if you've watched all the Enigma videos and all the number file videos and you still want more, can I recommend my chemistry channel, Periodic Videos? Because recently we got our hands on a super high-speed camera and filmed a bunch of reactions so we can show them in ultra slow motion. The videos are really cool and there's loads more to come. Go and have a look if it sounds like something you might like. All the links are below in the video description and here on the screen. And as usual, thanks so much for watching. Talk to you again soon.